This is the Beer, Rap and Banter podcast. Myself, English.
And myself, Cal Serious.
Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us. And we have an incredibly special guest today. Everyone inside, please make some noise for Councillor Dr. Hashi. Please make some noise. What's going on, man? Episode 39, Nicholas and Elka episode. How you been?
Can't complain, Can't complain.
Yeah? You've been well?
Keeping busy.
Keeping very busy by the looks of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Hash. How did you get your name, by the way? Is it because you like to smoke the hashish?
No, do you know, that's stereotyping, So my surname's Hashi, but my first name is Mohamed, and there's a lot of Mohameds.
There is. It's a holy name.
But do you know, it's actually the most popular name in the world, despite the variations in the spellings. So what we done in primary school, I was the first Mohammed, obviously. And then another Mohammed came. Then another one came. So we started getting called M1, M2, M3. When we got to M6, we referred back to surnames just to keep it, clear.
That's quite hard, though. I think a young man would probably like being called M3 or something like that.
There's too many M's in it. We started losing our identity.
just call me BMW.
Yeah.
Citroen Saxo over here. So just to give it some background, I've known you for a while. We went to university together a long time. Back at London Metropolitan back in 2006 or so, and you've always been very bubbly, very outspoken, and a good people person. And you've transpired this now to your work in and around South London and other parts of London. Just let everyone know a bit about yourself, your history, briefly, and then we'll talk about your role into politics, and then obviously the Brixton Soup Kitchen.
So again, it's from uni actually that a lot of my community stuff started. So part of that is I went uni. I didn't take a student loan because I'm Muslim and because of the interest associated with the student loan. So I done 4 jobs, 7 days a week for 4 years to get through uni. And one of those jobs was youth work. And for me, that was really my entrance into doing a lot of the community work, seeing the gaps in provisions for young people, for us, etc.
So can you just explain what the problem is with taking a loan and having to pay interest
for
a Muslim?
Yeah. So what is this about I think it's to do more with fairness because interest is associated with percentage rather than what you actually took. So depending on inflation and things like that, you don't actually know. It's almost a gamble when you take a loan because you don't know what you're going to be actually paying back. You don't know if it's something that will break you. You don't know if it's something that you'll get the better side of it and the bank will lose out, etc. So it's about that fairness and that balance because there's uncertainty associated with that percentage, as far as I understand.
Okay.
So you've obviously worked very hard, and for as long as I've known you, you've been about and helping the community. So just with your youth work, how did you find that? And then I know you encountered a few issues along the way. Would you like us to speak on that briefly? Just like so, how you was helping people, and then the unfortunate events which.
So do you know, for me, it's how I got into youth work was my personal situation. So we used to go to the youth club, and sometimes there won't be no youth workers there, so we can't play football, we can't come in, etc. And one of the things was, I said to the youth worker, can't I do it? Can't I just be responsible? And they brought me in as a peer leader, which meant I was still a young person. I wasn't getting paid, but I had responsibilities and we could actually use the facilities. And that just continued. And I was there for I'm still doing youth work now. And for me, it was about being able to see the gaps as being a young person, see the gaps and being able to start looking at filling them. And that was, for me, that's, again, as I said, that was the entrance for me becoming a community person. But that doesn't change the situation. The environment around us was still the same. I went to a local school. 7 of us got 5 GCSEs out of 200 of us. We had a new head teacher every year. So every year our head teacher got sacked. Wow. We didn't realise the significance of that. Yeah. The school was just about to be put under special measures. But we was just there happy, living life.
That actually sounds a bit crazy because, if we think about it in football terms, like when a football club loses its manager, the club's really unstable, the players are kind of a bit restless. And I can imagine it'll be exactly the same kind of thing for a school when they lose their head teacher.
I think it might have been, but for us as students, we were so disconnected from the teachers anyway. We weren't really feeling that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't really even realise how much problems the school was going through. We didn't realise the reputation of the school. We was just living life. If I'm honest with you, I don't want to say my age, but even up to now, I learned how to do a tie last year. because as part of our school uniform, we didn't have no tie.
Okay.
We just had a black jumper with a red logo in it, jeans, trainers, whatever we wanted. And that changed the year that we left. The year below us got a uniform, blazer and ties, and etc. And I didn't even realize the significance of that in terms of kind of preparing you for life.
Yeah. Do you think uniform's important for young teenagers as they go to secondary school?
I think it is,
and even in primary. So obviously we've both worked with children, and just the importance of uniform in primary, and then even secondary, looking smart and feeling as a part of a collective.
I think that's an aspect of it, but also for me, it when you put the pressure on a young person to dress their own way, it's like, how much money have they got? How much clothes have they got? What are the resources? You start actually creating a barrier there. And I think a lot of the time that puts pressure on families that, they've already got enough pressures on them already. But again, uniforms ain't cheap either. So there's a bit of a balance there.
It is.
I'm glad I didn't have a uniform, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. I don't really like this.
Being restricted or being told what to wear.
I don't feel
I did work in one primary school once where they didn't have a school uniform, and they felt that it kind of helped the children to have a sense of individualism and their own personal identity. And I do see that there are pluses for everyone having a school uniform and everyone kind of being the same. But at the same time, it is quite important for people to be themselves. So I can see both sides of it, really.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's that whole belonging thing as well. Like when you're part of a school and you got the same uniform as your friends, etc., you feel like you're part of something. So for me, it's something that has to be kind of looked into a bit deeper, I think. You can't just like look at it from the outside and say, yeah, I like this or I like that. There's a lot of issues, I think.
Yeah, and then from there, you've built your connection working with youth, but unfortunately, you faced an issue where you was stabbed and shot while doing youth work.
Yeah.
And you just speak on that and sort of, without, go into it as much as you can, but then sort of how much help you got from the community or lack of help you got from certain organisations. So
getting stabbed, so I didn't get stabbed and shot at the same time, fortunately.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
That would have been quite unfortunate.
That would have been dramatic.
That would have been a bad day at work, man.
So when I got stabbed, I was 15, and that was an attempted robbery on a bus.
Okay.
And I had a fight with the guys and ended up getting stabbed. So unfortunately, that was quite straightforward.
Yeah.
That's I think it was quite a typical experience in South. Getting shot was a bit more intricate. So I didn't actually get shot as in someone pointed a gun at me and shot me.
No.
So I was on my way to breaking up a fight. As I've crossed the road, I've seen someone produce a gun, and as their arms gone back, so they weren't pointing at me. It was like they were pointing in this direction, and I was across the road here. And as their arm went back, my arm just dropped. I was thinking, wow. And for me, it's funny because that was literally one of the best experiences of my life, if I'm honest with you, because it allowed me to get insight to what a lot of our kids go through. Yeah. But also it was a light bulb moment, like I'm going to get you guys to do this physically, yeah? So if you just open your hand up, open your hand and close it, and then tell me how you done it.
Just kind of used your fingers in your hand.
You see, you're assuming, what did you actually do?
Your brain told your hand to move.
You see, you're getting scientific. For me, I was sitting there with no use in my left arm, thinking, what's going on? And I'm looking at my right, closing it, saying, what do I actually do here that I need to replicate over here to get this working? And there was nothing I could do. And for me, I was like, boy, I've been blessed all this time with perfect use of two arms, and I've never even realized it as a blessing. So for me, it was like proper light bulb. I was there bleeding, dying, thinking, whoa, this is deep. Yeah. So what had actually happened, the bullet actually went through my shoulder, cut the nerve to my arm, shattered my rib hit my lung, collapsed my lung, and the bullet stopped 0.5 centimetre on top of my spine. Wow. So literally I've got a little cut on my spinal line. Yeah. So it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. And like you said, a light bulb moment. And then you've been working towards anti-knife campaigns and anti-violence.
Sorry to interrupt, but can we just specify exactly where in South is it from? Because South London gets a bit of a bad rep. People always say South, but whereabouts in South is it?
Boy, I feel like it's the real South. Like I grew up in Stockwell, Brixton, that kind of area.
Yeah. Which you've been doing a lot of work in the community, yeah. So just speak on that, if you will, some of the campaigns you've been working with and people you've been working with.
So again, for me, a lot of that was around my experience. So when I got shot, I went to hospital, got kind of patched out. They took a nerve from my forearm, put it into my shoulder. I was off work for how long? But what was interesting is some of the stories that started getting created. So in the media, it was said I was arguing with a group of 16-year-olds in a chicken shop, and then I walked out and they shot me, and that was not great for my rep. So, and it was not true. So it was almost that blame for young people. You know, it must be mindless young people that done it. I then got some people going back to like the head teacher and that saying, why did he employ a gang member? I heard it was a drug deal gone wrong. It was a shootout. It was attempted robbery, as in I was attempting to rob someone. Despite the fact that I was a teacher, despite the fact that I had a degree in biomedical science, despite all these things, those, you know, kind of that hearsay started anyway. And for me, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is deep. And is this what these kids go through when they go through these experiences? Rather than just, you know, that person is an unfortunate victim, you're trying to find reasons. And fortunately for me, the head teacher at that school, can you even imagine what she done? She turned around, sent me some flowers, and gave me an extension on my contract, a year's extension. She also gave me a pay rise because of my previous work that I was doing before I got shot, as a show of support. And that's for me something I won't ever forget. So shout out Miss Tapper, shout out Miss Williams.
Shout out. That is beautiful to see that support there in a time where it probably would have been easier to kind of let you go. Especially, it sounds like he was a contractor as well. So it's easy come, easy go with contractors.
Boy, the thing is, I was bedbound for 2 months. So it weren't even like I could have contested any decision they made at that time. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, a deep experience. But again, I'm thankful for the support that I got. Again, I was a well-qualified person, good support network, etc. But it still did take 5 years after the incident for me to be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, which meant I was hyper vigilant. I was hyper aggressive. You know, like I was always assuming something negative was going to happen to me, which was so tiring to be on edge like that 24/7 for 5 years. And for me, that was really the insight that I got for young people. I'm thinking that's me as a big man, qualified, support networks, good reputation in the area, etc. And I thought to myself, imagine the kids that ain't got that. Imagine the ones that are 14, 15 that have been stabbed, didn't die, or have watched their friends stabbed and did die. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine those experiences and that trauma that they're carrying. And then they come back into school and we try to deal with them like everything's cool, everything's normal. For me, it's I feel like as adults, we've really let down our young people, especially when we look at the stats around violence and mental health.
It's been a real issue. So you're doing a lot of work with young people and work around London and with your politics as a councillor for Labour.
Yeah.
So, and a smile comes into. How did that come about?
Again, it weren't even really something I planned, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
As part of, so when I got shot, I was getting stopped by the police a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was one incident specifically that kind of they put that battery in my back, which was, I was outside of McDonald's waiting for two young people. I was a science tutor at the time. And I'm waiting for them to get their food to do the tutoring, and a police officer rides up to me on a bike. And he says to me, "You all right there, mate?" And I'm thinking, huh? I said, "I'm fine, thank you." He's like, "Gonna be doing any stabbings today?"
Wow.
And I was like, that's exactly, you know what? It actually made me laugh how ludicrous it was. And I said to him, actually, I'm a science teacher waiting for my students to do a session. "Oh, well, you know, round here, there's a lot of stabbings and there's a lot of shootings, you know, we got to be vigilant." I said to myself, you know, as I walked off, I was just thinking to myself, how can I stop someone doing that to me? Where's the repercussions?
Yeah.
Where's the accountability? And from that, it spurred me. I started reaching out to people saying, what can I do about these kind of experiences? You know, on my car, I had 12 gun tags, which meant that every time the police ran my plates, it come up as I was suspected of being involved in 12 different shootings, including the one where I got shot.
Yeah.
Which obviously I was involved in as the victim.
Yeah.
But they don't specify these things. So for me, I started getting really upset about it, thinking this is a setup.
So how did you find out that information about you having 12 gun tags?
So police were stopping me so often, but I'm a youth worker and I was in all the areas, and I think that's why I had so many gun tags. So my job at the time was, when a serious incident happens, I go out into the area and engage the young people, find out what they need in terms of resources, what we can support them with. So what I guess was happening is, when I go into the area, I was getting picked up on camera and they're thinking, who's this person, suspicious kind of thing. But I started getting stopped so often that the police officers were recognizing me and saying, "Oh, hey, you do youth work?" Like, "Yeah, carry on the good work," and blah, blah, blah. And one of them actually said to me, you might want to think about selling this car, you know, because it's got a lot of markers in it." I said, "What's a marker?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, can't I get rid of them? He's like, nah, it's just information marker. So it's not even official to say, it's just like advising other officers who look on it. It's been saved on the actual notes. So I was like, I got to get rid of this car, man. But for me, what happened from there, I got into a group called the CPCG, so the Community Police Consultative Group, that actually held the borough commander and the senior councillors to account. I got involved in the Stop and Search Monitoring Group, which I became the chair of, which holds the police to account around their use of stop and search. Yeah. I became the vice chair of the Independent Advisory Group to the police. I became the vice chair of the Safe and Neighbourhood Board, which holds the borough commander to account. I've literally got involved in everything.
Became the community, because we was talking about the disconnect between police and the community, and how the police aren't from the areas that they police or patrol, and people are scared of them and they're scared of the people, and that's why you have encounters where these police officers are saying these type of horrible things to you, and our young Londoners, you know, not even Londoners, but people around the country, and there's no connect and relationship, and so you were there to advise and to talk and to help.
100%, and even off the back of that, I now sit on the 5 advisory groups at Scotland Yard. And for me, it's about building, because a lot of the senior officers, they understand the problem and they want to solve it. But there's so many fresh officers coming in. So right now, what we're working on is putting together a training package to actually, because for me, the biggest impact on this is media. And what happens is, if you've got so many officers that don't live in London watching the media before they come in, so for example, someone's been posted to Brixton because there's going to be Reclaim Brixton demonstrations. They're coming in with their backup. They're thinking, oh shoot, like there's gangs and there's stabbings and shootings, and so they're coming in frightened. And for us, you know, it's interesting because our kids pick up on that so easily. You know, they pick up on those attitudes. And so when you see, like, when you kind of step back and you look at interaction between our young people specifically and the police, you'll see how negative it is. Both sides are coming in with their backup and, you know, pushing out their chest and all that bluster, etc. But even as adults, when you try to intervene, I feel like sometimes officers, and I mean grassroots officers, you know, the PCs that are doing response work, etc., they kind of view you as the enemy because they feel like the community is against them. So they, as the police, have to be against the community. Now, my thing is that if you was from that community, you wouldn't feel like that. You'd have a stake in having a good relationship with the community because you live there. Yeah. So, but again, is that a place that people in the community want to work, in the police? Again, right now, it's no.
It's an interesting one. Are you doing a lot of work in the community and in and around Brixton? We spoke about sort of how Brixton's changed with the gentrification. How have you seen it change for better and for worse? And just talk about how you're making the most of the whole gentrified setup.
So for me, it's again, another interesting topic is gentrification. For me, gentrification is the investment into an area where previously there was no investment. So when you look at where Brixton was 15, 20 years ago, it weren't looking good. Do you know what I mean? It was slummish. It was all these crime issues. You had no investment. All of a sudden, we're getting investment in. I feel like the people that are really complaining about it are people that can afford to complain about it. Really, when we talk about gentrification, I remember talking to kids 3-4 years ago about gentrification. They didn't know what it meant. So when you've got, you know, all these demonstrations like Reclaim Brixton a couple of years ago, big demonstration, they ended up smashing up some windows like the Foxtons, like the Bernardos, and there were 6 arrests across the board. And for me, not one of them was from Brixton. Not one of them was even from London. You know,
not
6
even
of them.
One of them. One out of 6.
6 of them was out of London. All 6.
Wow.
And what it is we're attracting people. You know, when Margaret Thatcher died, why did everyone come Brixton to celebrate? We've got nothing to do with Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And what is this kind of takeover? And for me, when we talk about gentrification, I feel like there's a real responsibility on the community to get involved in the processes. You know, as you were saying, for me, one of the first things I'd done was set up a little tour of Brixton. You know, I charge a good amount of money for the tour.
Right.
And I walked them around. And let me tell you, look at the marketing for this, right?
Yeah.
This is the title of the tour: Guns, Gangs, and Gentrification.
Wow. You know what? I'd pay to go on that tour.
Bro, it's amazing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's amazing. And I like it because it's always getting updated. You know, we talk about, people forgot about in 1999 the nail bomb by David Copeland. Yeah. You know, people forget about why Brixton was targeted. It was targeted because it was a multicultural area and he believed that it would affect a cross-section of the community. We talk about Electric Avenue, the first place in Brixton with running electricity. Do you know what I mean? When we talk about Windrush Square and the SS Windrush coming to South London, there's so much history in there. When we talk about having an ex-prime minister, so John Major was a councillor in Lambeth, specifically Brixton.
Okay.
Ken Livingstone, former mayor, David Bowie. All of this comes from there, and all we ever hear is negativity from there. And for me, sometimes it's good when people come to visit that we don't, number one, sugarcoat it with just gentrification, like to say this is the only time that we're doing positive around here. Do you know what I mean? It's important that they see the whole, a real view of what's happening in the area, but also something to inspire the young kids as well. Because we've got so many people that's made so much positivity from Brixton specifically. And all we ever talk about is knife crime and gentrification.
It's a problem. Although I do think you're one of the people who are a really positive force, a real positive role model coming out of that area. But you've actually managed to put yourself into a number of groups, haven't you? So there is the one where you kind of work with the police. Can you tell us a bit about some of the other groups that you're in?
So I also was a commissioner for the Lambeth Equalities Commission, which looked at, and this is why it's deep for me, it looked at specifically, firstly, identifying the groups of people that haven't got the opportunity to take advantage of the investment that's coming into Lambeth specifically. So they identified the Portuguese community, they identified the Somali community, identified the disabled community. You know, people that there's actual barriers there. So what it done is it drilled into what those barriers were and what needs to change to remove those barriers. So that's an example. Literally everything, if I'm honest with you. Stop and search is a big one for me because it affected me specifically. But also I always wanted to look at how to find a route for young people to hold police officers to account. Yeah. And not just in negative, you know, like a teaching. Because sometimes I might get approached by a police officer because I'm in a tracksuit and I look young and do you know what I mean? Whatever it is. But it's not legal. So our kids don't know the law, so they pop off all the time. The police officers are confident that they don't know the law as well, so they can do whatever they want.
They can exploit them.
Yeah. So for me, it's about teaching our kids understanding and information, but also then teaching them how to conduct themselves.
Do you think schools have an obligation to teach this as well to the teenagers and
think
kids so they know?
They say every gentleman should know the law. So why are they not teaching the law in schools?
Well, they don't want them to.
If you talk about the £100 million the government's just taken out of schools, that could be an issue. Yeah. For me, I worked 7 months as a science teacher and I found directly the stress associated with being a teacher. Yeah. You know, you're marking your own work, you're setting up the classes, you're putting in the resources. Do you know what I mean? You're doing so much behaviour management, all these stuff, and then we're going to ask teachers to do more. Yeah, of course. For me, there has to be a proper investment, and I don't think it should sit squarely on the schools or squarely in the community or squarely on the police. It should be a partnership because they come across all of us. Do you know what I mean? Because
I think the reality is at the moment is if there's stuff that you're not getting from school and from the community, then it's going to have to come from the parents. So that might be something where parents need to sit their children down. Parents need to know the law first and then pass that information down onto their kids.
So again, if we talk about Lambeth specifically, we've got approximately 310,000 residents. Of those residents, 27% is accepted by the council as living on the poverty line or just under it, which is 83,700 people. So again, what you're doing is asking those people that are already under stress with increasing rent prices, the change in society in terms of universal credit and all these things that are really designed to trip you up. And we're saying, let's give them some more responsibilities with no extra support. For me, again, I'm really cautious about attributing those kind of blames to people that are already struggling.
I wasn't trying to place blame. I was thinking of
responsibility,
in terms of sort of moving forward. How could we resolve this issue? And if you have a child, I would have thought your responsibility is to ensure the safety of your child. So it would make sense for you to educate your child on things like knowing what a police officer can and can't do, knowing what the law is, what your rights are, things like that. I mean, if it's not coming from the school, then really you should make sure your child gets that information because that kind of information can save a life.
Not 100%, but again, for me, there's the lack of youth clubs, which we all grew up on. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you would have got a lot of that information. You'd had youth workers on the street supporting the young people and being that link between the parents and the schools, etc. That got taken away. And for me, because it hasn't been replaced, because obviously the first cuts that come to youth services because young people can't vote, who else is going to fight for them? And for me, my biggest issue is that we've allowed an environment to be created where young people are targeted without any repercussions. And we keep trying to blame the parents and the young people for that. Now, the young people do have a responsibility and parents do have a responsibility, but the greater responsibility is where the money is, if we're being honest. And for me, you've taken away youth clubs, you've taken away youth services. Where do these young people get the support from? Where should they be getting that education from? And where, if they do learn the law, remember, that's not even guaranteed that the police officer has to abide by that. You know, you could say, you can't search me, that's an illegal search. And he says, I don't care. What then? You have to go through complaint procedures. You have to have links within the police. And for me, that becomes a significant job.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen on our podcast before, we talked about PC Savage, and, you know, we've seen there are some police officers that overstep the mark. So that is a very serious dilemma right there.
So if even with PC Savage, do you remember the outcome?
Was he suspended?
No.
Did he?
Nothing.
Wow.
And we all saw that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He got the wrong guy. Talk about Charles Menendez. He wasn't even Ethiopian or Asian. He was Brazilian.
The guy that got shot by the
Stockwell.
police because they suspected him for being a terrorist.
He was just running for a train.
He weren't even running. That was part of the PR.
Wow.
So, but for me, it's like, I don't want to, kind of sweep it under the table. But for me, that's where we are. Do you know what I mean? Where it feels like, as a community, we're always under attack by everything around us. And until we can take hold of that, and for me, the main thing is the media. The main thing is the media. So even, as I was saying to you earlier, last year we had about 131 murders, right? And when I drilled into that, I said to myself, because every time a young person got stabbed or killed, it was like, the 120th murder this year in London, it's worse than New York, etc. When you drill into it, for me, it's a madness, because how many do you think out of that 131 murders was under 25?
80%.
49 out of 131. And under 25 for me is not a child. So how many do you think were
49% or 49?
49 out of 130.
Oh, okay, wow.
Under 25 years old.
So not under 21s was 36.
Wow.
And for me that includes 18-year-old Abdi Ali, who was found dead in a loft after being missing. A loft belonging to some older white people. So nothing to do with gangs. We had Bethany, 22-year-old, who died from a fall from heights. Nothing to do with gangs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Painted as gang. Yeah.
100%. You had Lily, 11-week-year-old Lily, who was found unresponsive in her house. Not a murder, but that's included in this stat. So really, if we drilled into it and said, how many of these murders last year were from stabbings or shootings, including under 21s, it becomes a tiny proportion of the wider issue. For me, that's too much anyway, but it is the environment that creates for young people that are watching it. When you're saying to young people, 131 young people was murdered in London last year, why would they not pick up a knife? They are terrified.
Yeah, protection. Yeah.
And for me, it's this hostile environment that's being created in their minds. It's not even the reality. They haven't necessarily they're not equipped to go out and do that research themselves. You're saying to them, 131 young people have been murdered last year from knives or guns. Why would they not go and protect themselves?
And that might bring us on to the importance of male role models. I mean, for my time doing some youth work, I noticed that there weren't that many people from our generation. There was like some older people, and then there was like one or two that were, kind of young enough to be able to connect with the teenagers, but still not, so old that all they're worrying about is paying their mortgage and, having a wife and children and stuff like that. So what is the shape of it now? Are there still a lot? Is there still a lot of a youth function? Because we know a lot of the youth centres have been closed down. Are there a lot of these positive role models around these days? I think there's always been a lot of positive role models, if I'm honest with you. Like you can just look on social media and see Carl Loco, who started off as a gang leader, and the Daily Mail would never let him forget that, if I'm honest with you. And then he was one of the few people that was invited to Prince Harry's wedding. Straight from Brixton. If you look online now, you'll see him with pictures of him and with a shotgun and with his friends, etc. To him moving into going to one of the few people that went to the wedding. Shout out to Harry.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, my thing is, sometimes we're not allowed to leave our past behind us. No one talks about how every year he does the Strive Challenge with Richard Branson. Do you know what I mean? Like he done one this year where walking up mountains and cycling and swimming across the world. And I'm like, The amount of fitness that you have to do that is crazy.
You're going to give that a
Do you know
go?
what I mean? I don't think so. If I'm
What's your
honest with
fitness
you,
saying?
yeah, boy, I might be able to ride from, very short. I might have to take lots of drugs. I mean, legal drugs, by the way.
Of course.
But I can imagine you won't have a lot of time though, because you're in a lot of groups, you're doing a lot of stuff in the community. Later for all of the jogging and the push-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, is there anything in particular that takes up most of your time?
Do you know, things just pop up. Do you know what I mean? I'm really into helping people. So I spend a lot of time doing work around the soup kitchen. So I run a soup kitchen for homeless people that we started in 2013. So again, that's voluntary. We don't get any core funding for that. So none of the staff are paid. I've got a youth work organisation as well that I do a lot of gang intervention work. But even talk about the role models again, for me, even though I'm doing a lot, for me it's about opening up those doors and the awareness to other people within the community to occupy those spaces. A lot of the time I feel like people from our community, what we do is we want to feel so exclusive that we close the door behind us. And what you find is that as you get higher and higher up, you become more and more isolated and your voice starts to mean less. And for me, strategically, what we're supposed to do is sit down and occupy the seats of power, you know, be there when the ideas are being formed rather than be there when the policies are already in place and being implemented. And for me, that's the biggest issue. And for me, that was one of the biggest reasons why I became a councillor. Yeah. Because I felt like I keep asking and I keep begging. Do you know what I mean? And why do I have to ask and beg? Why can't I do it myself? Am I not, academically qualified enough? Have I not got enough experience? Can I not articulate myself properly? What's the problem? And for me, it's right now, I'm about just kicking down these doors. And I do believe, honestly, that some kind of scandal is going to come my way because I watch enough programs to see the patterns. But for me, I'm hoping my community will stick by me regardless of what's in there.
I think they will.
I know they're going to support you, and we're going to support you on the podcast with this, but you're pushing for Mayor of London, when you do become mayor, because we're going to put it out there.
Yeah, so
2024.
Yeah, so let's speak on that. Well, yeah, let's speak on that. So
sorry to cut you, bro. Just before we do go into that, can you tell us a bit about your current role? So you're a councillor. Yeah. So for those that aren't too well versed in politics, is there like a career progression from like councillor to MP to? So it's
not progression. So councillor is a local politician. So that means, for example, Lambeth is one of the 32 boroughs in London. So Lambeth has got 63 elected councillors who run the whole council. So I'm one of the 63 elected councillors. And within that, you'll have a cabinet that have special responsibilities. So you have someone that does community safety, someone that does housing, someone, healthcare. And then you have the deputy leaders, then the leaders of the council. That council in Lambeth, we also have 3 MPs who are nationally elected politicians. So that's a separate stream, if that makes sense. So the councillors are local councillors. They actually deal with local issues, so the housing and the roads and etc. Whereas the MPs will represent Lambeth to the rest of the country. So represent the views of people from Lambeth.
So councillors still have to get elected?
Yeah, both have to get elected.
Awesome.
See,
officially a certified man of the people here.
Yeah, come on, that's why we got him on. And also, so you're going to push for Mayor of London. Just talk about how is that going so far?
No, it's going really well. So we had one of the people that helped us set up the soup kitchen, a lady called Dame Tessa Jowell. Yep. So she was actually the MP for Brixton. So that's how we really got to meet. And she was the first person that really made me know that, yeah, you can do something with politics. You don't have to be like them guys, if that makes sense. Them guys that you don't even know. You just write to them when you're about to go jail or something. Say, oh, I'm getting kicked out of my house. Let me write to my MP. You don't even know what their role is. But with Tessa, she was there by our side all the time. So she went up against Sadiq Khan for the selection to become Mayor of London. Yeah. First thing she does was get us to open up her campaign.
She had you on board, yeah?
Yeah, I was in my tracksuit. I said, Tessa, do you want me to change? Do you want me to? She said, why would you do that? And I was thinking, swear down, that's true. And for me, that's why a lot of my kind of public engagement, you always see me in my tracksuits because I'm like, it's not that, people say, oh, look, that person switched up when they got to this level. For me, my thing, this is my skin. Do you know what I mean? This is my pride. This is where I came from. I'm not trying to hide that. I want people to, in fact, take it in as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, like even yesterday I was at an event talking and obviously I got this long title, this councillor, doctor, Mohamed, Hashi. So obviously I'm sitting there in my tracksuit, everyone's all nice and, you know, like that, put together. And then when it was time for me to talk, I just jumped up and got on stage, and I could see people saying, "Where's he going?" And I'm like, yeah. I'm not going to lie, by the time I was finished talking, people was on board.
Of course,
do you know what I mean?
You're a motivational person, man. Like, you know, and you articulate yourself well. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're going to get yourself a red tracksuit maybe when you're running Labour.
Do you know it would be red for United, really?
No, we don't talk about United.
We should get him an Arsenal trackie.
No,
really.
I don't know about that. I want to be a winner, you know.
Oh.
I need to be a winner.
Shots fired.
United looking well. Well, look, man. So the process is going really well, running. You know, we're going to be voting for you and supporting you.
I would like him to continue talking about running for mayor, though.
Yeah. So for me, again, I've been a councillor less than a year now.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, I've already won a national councillors award. So not just a Labour, it was across all parties. So I got the community champion award for LGIU, some local government stuff. So again, for me, that was a marker, because I just come into the game. Do you know what I mean? And they're already celebrating, and they're not necessarily celebrating what I've done now. What they're celebrating is what I've been able to achieve.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, coming from a community that's gone through so much trauma, gone through so much issues, you know, we all got friends that's been stabbed and shot and dead, all these things that we've go through. And for me, it's like, it's inspirational for me looking at what's happening around me, because I feel like I'm just representing the people that I've been around. Do you know what I mean? It's not just my award, it's our award. Because for so many years we've been overlooked because we don't know how the system works. We don't get involved in the system. And now I feel like I'm in it. I'm actually the first Somali councillor in Lambeth ever. And that's for me, it's 2018. And that's too late, though.
You're probably the first politician that wears a hoodie as well.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to encourage them to get into it, you know.
To switch it up.
Hopefully we need to get more awards under my belt, and then I'll be like, if you want this award, you need to wear a tracksuit.
You will.
Well, haven't you got a bag of awards already, though? I think you got like a BAFTA for something?
That was a Back to Black award, yeah.
Okay.
So again, shout out Freddie Kruger for that one. Again, that was our first community award. And for me, it's amazing being recognised by your own community, let alone, you know, all these big organisations that they're just surprised when, you know, a young black man is doing all right, not getting, well, I can't say not getting shot or stabbed, because that's but, you know.
Wrong phrase.
Yeah, but do you get what I mean? They're celebrating because they never expected it. And that's something that I want to get rid of. You know, you should expect greatness from us. We're a community that's gone through so much trauma and built up so much resilience. I don't want you to say, oh, sorry that you got shot. I want you to say, well done. You know, I want you to expect it. Well, you got shot. How can you be worried about redundancy? Or how can you be worried about, you know, this stress around our bills? You've been shot and survived. That's the level that I started. So you can't even scare me with all the rest of it. You know, you can't scare me with scandals, because I am a survivor. Whatever you throw at me, I'm going to go through it.
Come on, man. Democratically elected man of the people right here. I'm sure you can handle anything they throw at you, bro. Whole community's right behind you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation, man. Times is flying.
It is. It really is flying.
What else we got to cover? I mean, you touched on Soup Kitchen. Just as we're staying on politics, just any words of advice for younger people that see you and they might not be into politics, or they want to get into it, or they don't vote? And
boy, do you know, is I found out very late that politics runs our lives. You know, like from policies, from, you know, like budgets, from what's going to be cut. It runs our entire life. And for me, it's important that young people know that. Right now, it's only about 33% of the population that votes, both in local and general elections. 33%. Wow. And that's why we're not represented. But even before the voting, you know, for me, it was interesting, because before you get voted, you get selected to be put up for a vote. And for me, I was always there just voting and not really selecting. And for me, it's important that, you know, young people, they get more involved in understanding the structures that precede the votes.
On the ground level.
Yeah, get involved in your local Labour groups and your local Conservative groups, and whatever area you're in, whoever is dominating, get involved with them. Make sure you're putting forward the candidates that you want, that reflect you. Make them accountable to you. Because there's no point when they get voted and they know you don't vote, you mean nothing. You hold no sway. Yeah. You know, and for me, it's about becoming relevant. You know, as a people, we and for me, I don't even see it as a race issue. You know, it's a class issue for me. You know, as poor people, we've been secluded and isolated from these processes because we're like, oh, well, you know, if we're talking about Lambeth, for example, we've got the highest rates of youth violence, highest incidence of mental health, second highest rates of teen pregnancy, the highest rates of HIV. You know, 1 in 3 children is born into poverty. So it's easy to turn around and say, boy, voting is not my priority. You know, I'm out here trying to survive. Yeah. There's people out here that you were expecting them to thrive and they're not even surviving. Do you know what I mean? And for me, I hear that, but there's a greater responsibility. There's a bigger picture, which is being able to hold your elected councillors to account, your elected MPs to account, your elected Prime Minister to account. And it's because we don't vote while we're in this Brexit rubbish.
Man, Dr. Hashi, like, we could have this conversation all day. I think we might have to get him on again another time.
Definitely. Don't forget us when...
Guys, come on, I'm done. Whenever you call me, I'll be here.
My guy.
So your official title, how should we address you as your official title?
Well, officially, you know.
Officially, because, like, you know, you're certified in academia, certified in the streets, certified in the politician world. How do we address you?
Do you know, it's for me, I prefer Hash, but for, you know, when you get into these places where people are looking at you, looking down at you, thinking, you know, you're not that important as Councillor Dr.
That's it.
Mohamed Hashi.
Talk it.
Come on.
Talk your talk.
You have to make them know, innit?
Talk your talk. That's it. Repping South London, repping London. Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is Beer Rap and Banter. Myself, Cal Serious.
Myself, English, episode 39. We got Nicholas and Nelka with a very special guest. Please, everyone in the background, everyone here, if you're listening, make sure you go follow him, Councillor Dr. Hashi. Big up, brother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hey. Oh, just quickly, where can people follow you and also support the Brixton Soup Kitchen for the GoFundMe and whatnot? So the follows and the socials and all of that.
Yeah, so on Twitter it's Brix Soup Kitchen, BRIX Soup Kitchen. On Instagram it's Brixton Soup Kitchen, so follow from there. You can see my private accounts on there as well.
Personal, yeah. And this is Beer Rap and Banter.
We out.
Thanks for listening. Peace.